My wife divorced me because she said I would always be one promotion behind everyone else. 4 years later, she walked into the company I owned asking if I could save the job she'd laughed at me for chasing. When people hear the ending of this story, they usually assume it must have been satisfying. That I must have felt some incredible sense of victory. That I smiled when she finally realized who owned the company she'd spent years trying to get hired by. The truth is more complicated. Because there was a time when I would have traded every dollar I eventually earned just to keep my marriage together. Back then, I wasn't dreaming about revenge. I was dreaming about kitchen renovations. Weekend camping trips. Maybe a couple of kids. The ordinary kind of future that suddenly becomes priceless the moment someone tells you they don't want it anymore. I'm 36 now. This started almost 6 years ago. My ex-wife, Lauren, and I had been together since college. We met during orientation week. She was studying marketing. I was studying electrical engineering. She liked to joke that she fell in love with me because I looked completely lost trying to find the engineering building. That wasn't entirely true. I wasn't lost. I was just reading the campus map upside down. She laughed so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. That laugh became one of my favorite sounds. For years, everything felt easy. We weren't one of those couples constantly posting perfect pictures online. Most of our dates involved cheap tacos, long walks, and watching terrible movies while arguing over whose turn it was to choose. We graduated. I found a job maintaining industrial automation systems for a manufacturing company. She joined a marketing agency downtown. Money wasn't amazing, but it wasn't terrible either. We rented a tiny apartment that had exactly one redeeming quality. The rent was cheap. Everything else was awful. The air conditioner sounded like an airplane preparing for takeoff. The shower switched between freezing and lava without warning. The upstairs neighbors apparently enjoyed bowling after midnight. Still, we loved that apartment. Not because it was nice. Because it was ours. Every Friday we'd buy one frozen pizza and split it while watching whatever movie happened to be streaming. Lauren always burned the crust because she'd forget it was in the oven. I always ate the burnt pieces anyway. She claimed that was proof I'd make a good husband. 3 years later, we got married. Nothing extravagant. A small ceremony. About 60 guests. My father cried before anyone else did. Lauren looked absolutely beautiful. I remember standing there thinking I'd somehow won the lottery. If someone had shown me a photograph from the future that day, a picture of us signing divorce papers, I would have laughed in their face. Because we were solid. Or at least I thought we were. Things didn't change overnight. People always ask whether there were warning signs. There were. Hundreds of them. The problem is that warning signs rarely announce themselves. At the time, they just look like ordinary disagreements. It started with work. I'd always loved building things. Even as a kid I'd take apart radios just to figure out how they worked. As an engineer, I spent my days fixing production lines. At night, I started building software. Not apps. Not games. Industrial monitoring systems. Programs that could predict equipment failures before machines broke down. The idea came after watching a factory lose nearly $500,000 because one motor failed without warning. I kept thinking, there's got to be a better way. So every evening after work I'd sit in our second bedroom, which was technically supposed to become a nursery one day, and write code. Hour after hour. Lauren supported it at first. She'd bring me coffee. Sometimes she'd sit beside me reading while I worked. She even helped me brainstorm company names despite knowing almost nothing about software. I like Iron Pulse. Sounds like a gym. What about Machine Mind? Sounds like a robot therapist. Eventually we settled on something simpler. Sentinel Systems. It sounded professional. Reliable. The website looked terrible because I designed it myself. But I was proud of it. My first customer paid me $2,400. I celebrated like I'd won the lottery. Lauren opened a bottle of cheap champagne. We're entrepreneurs now. I laughed. I'm an entrepreneur. She pointed at herself. We're married. Oh. That means half your success belongs to me. I kissed her forehead. Fair enough. For a while. Life was good. The business slowly grew. Very slowly. Some months I'd make $3,000. Other months I'd make nothing at all. Every cent went back into improving the software. New servers. Better security. Testing equipment. Lauren didn't mind initially. She kept saying, "One day this is going to be huge." I believed her. Then life happened. Friends started buying houses. One couple built a pool. Another posted pictures from Greece. Someone else bought a Tesla. Social media has an incredible ability to convince you everyone else is living a better life. Lauren started spending more time scrolling. More time comparing. More time asking questions. How does Ashley already own a 4-bedroom house? Didn't Chris graduate after you? Why is everyone getting ahead? At first I'd answer logically. Different careers. Different priorities. Some had help from parents. Others had massive mortgages. None of it mattered. Comparison doesn't care about facts. It only cares about appearances. One evening we attended a birthday party for one of Lauren's co-workers. Almost everyone worked in marketing or sales. Expensive clothes. Luxury watches. Conversations about ski trips and investment properties. I felt completely out of place. Someone eventually asked me what I did. I work in industrial automation. Oh. Awkward silence. Lauren quickly added. And he's starting a software company. The man smiled politely. How's that going? I answered honestly. Slow. He nodded with that expression people wear when they've already lost interest. 5 minutes later he was discussing stock portfolios with someone else. On the drive home Lauren was unusually quiet. Finally she spoke. You know what your problem is? I laughed. Where do I start? You always undersell yourself. What do you mean? You say things like, it's going slow. Because it is. You should sound confident. I'd rather sound honest. She sighed. Confidence gets people to invest. I didn't realize then how much that conversation mattered. Because over the next year, honesty slowly became less impressive to her than confidence. Even fake confidence. Around that time Lauren received a promotion. New title. Larger clients. Almost 30% more pay. I was genuinely happy for her. We went out to celebrate. Halfway through dinner she said, I think this is finally our chance. Our chance for what? A better apartment. I hesitated. She noticed immediately. You already have that look. What look? The one where you're about to say we should invest the money instead. I smiled awkwardly. I was actually thinking. I know. The business. I wasn't trying to be selfish. The software had reached a point where I desperately needed another developer. I couldn't keep doing everything alone. Hiring someone was expensive. Lauren set down her fork. When does it become enough? What? The business. There's always another feature. Exactly. Her voice wasn't angry. Just tired. I feel like we're always waiting. I know. No. She shook her head. I don't think you do. That conversation ended without either of us changing our minds. Over the next several months, similar conversations became routine. She wanted vacations. I wanted servers. She wanted newer furniture. I wanted another programmer. She wanted certainty. I wanted possibility. Neither of us was wrong. We just stopped wanting the same future. Things became worse after she joined a new marketing firm. The company specialized in luxury real estate. Suddenly she spent every day surrounded by people making enormous commissions. Agents driving Range Rovers. Developers buying penthouses. Clients discussing vacation homes like they were choosing between restaurants. She'd come home talking about houses worth $3 million. At first it was interesting. Then it became something else. You should meet our CEO sometime. I'd probably bore him. He started with nothing. So have lots of people. He says successful people create opportunities. I agree. She looked at me. Then why are you still waiting? I frowned. I'm not waiting. It feels like you are. I work 70 hours a week. I know. Then how am I waiting? She looked out the window. I don't know. But I think she did know. She just didn't want to say it. Around then, one of my closest friends invited us over for dinner. Mark and his wife, Jenna. Mark had recently sold his landscaping business. He'd done incredibly well. New house. Boat. Everything. After dinner he pulled me aside. "You've got something bothering you." I shrugged. "Marriage stuff." He nodded. "Wanna talk?" So I did. For almost an hour. He listened without interrupting. Finally he asked one question. "Does she still believe in your dream?" I answered immediately. "Of course." Then I paused. Because for the first time, I wasn't completely sure. Mark noticed. "That's not a good pause." "No. It isn't." I wish I'd listened more carefully to that feeling. Instead, I worked harder. I kept believing success would fix everything. That once the company earned enough money, the arguments would disappear. The stress would vanish. We'd laugh about the difficult years. I had no idea I was racing toward a finish line where she'd already stopped waiting. The first real crack came over something ridiculously small. A dishwasher. Ours finally broke after nearly 12 years. Lauren wanted a premium model. Around $1,800. I suggested fixing the old one for $200 until the business became more stable. She stared at me. "You've got to be kidding. It's just temporary." "Everything is temporary with you." "What does that mean?" "The apartment. The car. The furniture. The vacations. The dishwasher. It's always later." I rubbed my temples. "I'm trying to build something. And I'm trying to build a life." The silence afterward felt heavier than the argument itself. Neither of us apologized. We just moved on. At least outwardly. A few weeks later, she started staying late at work more often. Marketing campaigns. Client dinners. Networking events. None of it seemed unusual. Until it became every week. Then every few days. One Friday I decided to surprise her by bringing dinner to her office. Her assistant looked confused when I arrived. "Oh. What? I thought Lauren left." "When?" "About an hour ago." I smiled. "Probably forgot to tell me." She nodded awkwardly. "Maybe." I drove home. Lauren arrived nearly 2 hours later. "I thought you had a client dinner." "I did." "Your assistant said you left." Her expression changed for just a fraction of a second. Then recovered. "We moved it." "Oh. That was it." No fight. No accusation. Just a tiny seed of doubt. Over the following months those little moments multiplied. She smiled at her phone more often. Turned it face down. Started taking calls in another room. Changed her password. Bought nicer clothes. Started going to the gym before work. Every change had a reasonable explanation. Together, they formed a picture I desperately didn't want to see. I asked Mark one afternoon if I was imagining things. He looked uncomfortable. "What?" "I've seen her a couple of times." "Where?" "Downtown." "With coworkers?" Long pause. "I don't know." "What do you mean?" "There was a guy." "What guy?" "I figured he worked with her." "What did they look like?" He hesitated. "I don't want to make problems where there aren't any." "Mark." "They looked." He sighed. "Close." I thanked him. Then spent the rest of the evening convincing myself he was mistaken. Because denial is comforting. Reality isn't. 3 weeks later reality knocked on my front door. Literally. A courier delivered flowers. Huge bouquet. White roses. The card simply read, "Looking forward to Saturday. D." I assumed they were for Lauren. She came home 15 minutes later. The moment she saw the flowers, she froze. "Who are those from?" I handed her the card. She read it. Then looked at me. "Oh. They're for work." "Work?" "A client." "Who's D?" She answered too quickly. "David." "What client sends flowers?" "They're opening a new development." "For Saturday?" Silence. She set the flowers in the kitchen without another word. Neither of us mentioned them again. But something inside me had already changed. Trust doesn't disappear all at once. It leaks. Drop by drop. Until one day you realize there's nothing left. I wish I could tell you I confronted her immediately. I didn't. I kept hoping for an explanation that would make me feel foolish for doubting her. Instead, 2 weeks later, I got one that destroyed everything. And that was the day I learned that sometimes the worst part of betrayal isn't that someone lies to you. It's realizing they've been telling themselves a completely different story about your life together for a very long time. For the next 2 weeks, I convinced myself I was overthinking everything. It sounds ridiculous now. Looking back, the signs were obvious enough that if someone else had told me the exact same story, I would have asked why they were still making excuses. But that's the strange thing about love. You become a defense attorney for someone who has already decided you're guilty. Lauren became more affectionate. Almost suspiciously so. She'd kiss me before leaving for work. She'd ask about my software. She even offered to order dinner instead of making me cook after late nights. Every time I started thinking maybe something was wrong, she'd do something thoughtful. And I'd tell myself I was being paranoid. Then came the company holiday gala. Lauren had invited me weeks earlier. I almost didn't go. The software had developed a nasty memory leak, and I'd spent 3 straight nights trying to fix it. I really should stay home, I told her while adjusting the tie I hadn't worn in over a year. She walked over and straightened it. No. What if a client calls? They won't. They always do. She smiled. Tonight you're my husband. Not an engineer. Not a founder. Not the guy chasing impossible dreams. My husband. I remember smiling. Funny how your happiest memories sometimes happen just before your worst ones. The event was held at one of the nicest hotels in the city. Valet parking. Crystal chandeliers. Open bar. Everything looked expensive enough that I spent the first 10 minutes worried I'd spill something on the carpet. Lauren, meanwhile, fit in effortlessly. She knew everyone's names. Everyone knew hers. Watching her move from conversation to conversation reminded me why she'd always been so good at marketing. People liked her. They wanted to talk to her. She had a way of making complete strangers feel like old friends. I drifted toward the bar while she introduced me to coworkers. Most conversations followed the same pattern. What do you do? I'm an automation engineer. Oh. And I run a small software company. Interesting. Then they'd politely excuse themselves. After the 4th version of that exchange, I decided another sparkling water sounded like a better investment than networking. That's when someone tapped my shoulder. You must be Ethan. I turned. Tall. Probably mid-40s. Perfectly tailored navy suit. Expensive watch. The kind of smile people develop after years of convincing others to trust them. I'm Daniel. I recognized the name immediately. Lauren had mentioned him dozens of times. Regional director. Fastest promotion in company history. The executive who supposedly remembered everyone's birthday. The famous software guy. I laughed. I don't know about famous. He extended his hand. Lauren speaks very highly of you. I shook it. His grip was firm. Confident. She's mentioned you too. I hope only good things. Mostly about your sales numbers. He smiled. They keep the lights on. Then he looked around. You know. I admire people willing to take risks. I nodded politely. Building a company isn't easy. It isn't. But. He took a sip of his drink. Sometimes the smartest decision is knowing when to stop. I frowned slightly. What do you mean? I've watched a lot of talented people chase businesses that never became businesses. He shrugged. No shame in recognizing when something isn't working. Before I could answer, someone called his name. He smiled. Good talking to you. Then he disappeared into the crowd. The conversation lasted maybe 2 minutes. But something about it bothered me. Not what he'd said. How he'd said it. Like he already knew more about my life than he should. On the drive home, Lauren asked whether I'd enjoyed myself. It was nice. You sound unconvinced. I met Daniel. She looked over immediately. Oh. He seems. I searched for the right word. Confident. She laughed. That's definitely one way to describe him. He also seems very interested in my business. Her hands tightened almost imperceptibly on the steering wheel. What did he say? I repeated the conversation. She didn't respond for nearly 30 seconds. Finally she sighed. He can be blunt. You've told him about Sentinel? Just general stuff. Like what? I don't know. That you're building software. That it's taking longer than expected. I stared out the passenger window. I didn't realize my career was office conversation. It isn't. You just said. I've probably mentioned it a few times. The subject ended there. But for the first time, it felt like our marriage wasn't entirely ours anymore. Pieces of it had become stories she told other people. December arrived. Sentinel landed its biggest contract yet. A regional food processing company wanted to pilot my monitoring system across 3 facilities. It wasn't life-changing money. About $60,000. But it proved something. Real companies believed in the product. I was ecstatic. I brought home takeout from Lauren's favorite Thai restaurant and a bottle of wine. I have news. She smiled. So do I. You first. No. She laughed. You've got that look. I practically shoved the contract toward her. She skimmed it. Her eyes widened. Ethan. They signed. This is amazing. We can finally hire someone. The excitement disappeared from her face. Oh. What? I thought. You thought what? I don't know. That maybe we'd celebrate. We are celebrating. I mean. She hesitated. I thought maybe we'd use some of the money. There isn't much left after taxes. I know. And hiring. And equipment. And insurance. Anne. She pushed the contract back toward me. I get it. Something inside me deflated. You said you had news too. She smiled again. Different this time. I got another promotion. I stood immediately and hugged her. That's incredible. It comes with a huge raise. I told you they were lucky to have you. She hugged me back. But somehow, we weren't celebrating together. We were celebrating separate victories. Christmas with her family had always been stressful. Her father judged everyone. Her mother silently agreed with him. This year was worse. Halfway through dinner her father asked how business was going. Good. What kind of revenue? Lauren kicked my ankle under the table. I ignored it. We're growing. So. He smiled. What does that mean? I gave him the numbers. He nodded slowly. Still smaller than Lauren's salary. The table went quiet. I smiled politely. For now. He chuckled. I admire optimism. Lauren didn't defend me. Not then. Not later. On the drive home she simply stared ahead. Finally I asked. Why didn't you say anything? About what? Your dad. You know how he is. I do. But you're my wife. She gripped the steering wheel. I didn't want to start an argument. It already was an argument. No. It would have become one. I looked out the window. I stood up for you when my mother criticized your career. I know. So why is it different? She whispered so quietly I almost missed it. Because maybe he has a point. That sentence echoed in my head for weeks. Maybe he has a point. Not he's right. Not you're failing. Just. Maybe. It was enough. January brought snow. And distance. Lauren began sleeping earlier. Claiming she was exhausted. She spent more weekends catching up with coworkers. When we were together, conversations became logistical. Did you pay the electric bill? Can you pick up milk? My dentist appointment is Thursday. Somewhere along the way, we stopped asking each other how we were doing. Then came the Saturday. The one from the flowers. Lauren left around 4 in the afternoon. Client appreciation dinner. She kissed my cheek. I won't be late. What client? One of Daniel's accounts. I nodded. Have fun. She smiled. You too. The moment the front door closed, I hated myself. Because I picked up my car keys. I told myself I wasn't following her. I just wanted peace of mind. If I saw her walking into some restaurant with coworkers, I'd apologize to myself for doubting her. That was all. She drove downtown. I stayed 3 cars behind. She passed the restaurant district. Kept driving. Past the hotel where the holiday gala had been held. turned into an underground parking garage. I circled the block twice before parking nearby. Then I waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Finally I walked into the garage. Her car was there. But she wasn't. I checked the lobby. Nothing. Then I noticed another elevator leading to luxury apartments connected to the same building. My stomach dropped. I stood there for almost a minute, telling myself to leave. Go home. Trust your wife. Instead, I waited. 23 minutes later. The elevator doors opened. Lauren stepped out. She wasn't alone. Daniel walked beside her. He laughed at something she said. She touched his arm. Not accidentally. The kind of touch people don't even realize they're making because it has become natural. They stopped near her car. He kissed her. Not quickly. Not awkwardly. Comfortably. Like they'd done it many times before. I don't remember breathing. I don't remember thinking. I just remember standing there while my entire life quietly rearranged itself into something I no longer recognized. Lauren unlocked her car. Daniel kissed her again. Then she noticed me. I've never seen someone's face lose color so quickly. Ethan. Daniel turned. Looked at me. Then back at her. Neither of them spoke. I walked toward them. Not fast. Not angry. Just empty. How long? Lauren started crying immediately. Ethan, please. How long? She looked at the ground. A few months. Daniel finally spoke. I think maybe we should. I looked at him. You don't get to talk. He closed his mouth. Lauren reached for my hand. I stepped back. Please let me explain. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because I genuinely couldn't believe this was happening. Explain what? That you've been lying? It wasn't planned. Oh. That makes it better. Ethan. When? She whispered. September. September. 5 months. 5 months of dinners. Movie nights. Anniversary plans. Conversations about children. All while she was living a completely different life. I was going to tell you. When? Silence. When he left his wife? Daniel's eyes shot toward Lauren. I noticed immediately. I looked back at him. You told me she knew. He looked uncomfortable. Lauren started shaking her head. Ethan. You said he was divorced. More silence. Daniel finally muttered. We're separated. I laughed again. This time louder. Of course. Of course he wasn't divorced. Why would reality suddenly become less ridiculous? I looked at Lauren. So. You cheated on me. With a married man. It's complicated. No. It really isn't. She started crying harder. I never meant to hurt you. I stared at her. For the first time in 11 years. I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. You already did. I turned around. Ethan. I kept walking. She followed me. Please don't leave like this. I stopped. Without turning around. Then asked one question. Do you love him? She didn't answer immediately. That hesitation hurt more than anything else. Finally she whispered. I don't know. I nodded. Then you definitely don't love me. I got into my car. Drove home. And spent the next 4 hours sitting in the driveway because I couldn't bring myself to walk inside the house we'd built together. Around midnight. Lauren came home. She found me sitting in the dark. She climbed out of her car slowly. I didn't know where else to go. I looked at her. That's ironic. She burst into tears again. I'm sorry. No. I really am. I believe you. She looked surprised. I think you're genuinely sorry. She took one hopeful step forward. But. I continued. You're sorry because you got caught. Not because you stopped. Not because you chose me. Because you ran out of lies. She started to say something. I raised my hand. Please. Don't. For once in your life. Tell me the whole truth. And for the next hour. She did. She met Daniel during a product launch. He made her feel seen. He admired her ambition. He told her she deserved someone whose life was already moving instead of always waiting for the future. They started having lunch together. Lunch became drinks. Drinks became hotel rooms. Every time she felt guilty, Daniel reminded her that she deserved happiness. Every time she thought about confessing, she looked at me working late in my office and convinced herself I'd never change. Then she said the sentence that ended our marriage long before the divorce papers ever arrived. I got tired of believing that one day things would be different. I asked quietly, "So instead you found someone who already had everything?" She couldn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence said enough. Around 3 in the morning, I walked upstairs, packed a small bag. She followed me. "Where are you going?" "Mark's." "Please don't." I looked around the bedroom. Wedding photos. Vacation souvenirs. The blanket her grandmother had sewn. A life. "I can't sleep here tonight." She sat on the edge of the bed. "What happens now?" I answered honestly, "I have absolutely no idea." As I reached the front door, she said something that I wouldn't fully understand until years later. "I hope one day you become everything you want to be." At the time, it sounded almost kind. Later, I realized what she'd actually meant. She hoped I'd eventually become the man she believed I wasn't yet. She just didn't want to wait around long enough to find out. I closed the door behind me. And without realizing it, I also closed the final chapter of the life I thought I was going to live. People always ask whether I fought for my marriage. The answer is yes. Just not in the way they imagine. I didn't show up at Lauren's office begging her to stay. I didn't send flowers. I didn't promise I'd change. Instead, I asked if she would go to counseling. Once. Just once. Not because I thought therapy could magically erase 5 months of lies, but because 11 years deserved at least one honest conversation with someone who wasn't emotionally involved. She agreed. For about 30 seconds. Then she called the next morning. "I don't think it's a good idea." "Why?" Long silence. "I've already made my decision." There it was. Not, "I'm confused." Not, "I need time." Not, "I don't know what I want." She had already left the marriage. She just hadn't informed me until she got caught. I thanked her for being honest. Then I hung up. That was the last conversation we had as husband and wife. The divorce process started 2 weeks later. People think betrayal comes in one devastating moment. It doesn't. It arrives in installments. The first installment was packing boxes. Lauren came by while I was at work and took most of her things. She left the wedding album. She left the framed picture from our honeymoon. She even left the coffee mug she'd used every morning for nearly a decade. Those hurt more than the furniture. Because furniture is expensive. Coffee mugs are personal. The second installment was telling people. My parents cried. My mother kept asking what she'd done wrong. Nothing. There must have been something. There wasn't. Parents have a difficult time accepting that sometimes terrible things happen without a satisfying explanation. My father simply put a hand on my shoulder. "You coming over for dinner tonight?" He knew I wasn't eating properly. I nodded. He didn't ask another question. Sometimes the best comfort is ordinary kindness. Mark was furious. "I'll kill him." "You won't." "I might." "You definitely won't." He sat across from me in my kitchen, looking angrier than I was. I knew something was off. "You suspected." I should have said something sooner. "No. You trusted your wife." "So did I." Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally he looked around the house. "What are you going to do?" "I honestly don't know." The divorce itself wasn't particularly dramatic. No screaming in court. No dramatic confrontations. Just paperwork. Lawyers. Bank statements. Asset valuations. Because Sentinel was still small, it technically counted as a marital asset. Lauren's attorney argued she deserved half its value. My attorney disagreed. An independent accountant valued the company. The final number made me laugh. Not because it was high. Because it was painfully low. After years of 70-hour weeks. Countless weekends. Missed vacations. Endless stress. Sentinel was officially worth less than a used pickup truck. Lauren accepted a buyout for her share. $38,000. She actually apologized. I know it isn't much. I looked at her. You spent years telling me the company wasn't worth anything. She lowered her eyes. I know. I guess we finally agree. She flinched. Not because I raised my voice. Because I didn't. Calmness can be far more uncomfortable than anger. She signed. I signed. Just like that. 11 years became a stack of legal documents. 3 months later I heard she'd moved into Daniel's condo. I didn't ask. People told me anyway. Mutual friends always think they're helping. They look happy. I saw them at a restaurant. They're talking about buying a house. Every update felt like someone reopening a wound that had almost started healing. Eventually I stopped attending gatherings where I knew she'd be discussed. I wasn't angry anymore. I was exhausted. Work became everything. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I needed something that still made sense. Computers were predictable. Code either worked. Or it didn't. There were no hidden meanings. No emotional games. No wondering whether someone meant what they said. If a server crashed, you fixed it. If software had a bug, you found it. People weren't nearly that simple. I started arriving at the office before sunrise. Leaving after midnight. Some weeks I barely noticed what day it was. Mark became concerned. You look terrible. I've looked worse. When? The divorce. You look divorced and haunted now. I laughed. It was probably the first genuine laugh I'd had in months. About 6 months after everything ended, something happened that nearly finished Sentinel for good. Our largest client called. They decided not to renew. Budget cuts. Nothing personal. Just business. They represented almost 40% of our revenue. I stared at the email for nearly 10 minutes. Then I walked into our tiny office. There were only 4 of us. Me. Jacob, the first developer I'd ever hired. Priya, our support engineer. And Miguel, who somehow handled sales, customer support, invoices, and fixing the coffee machine. I told them the truth. No sugarcoating. We lost Ashcroft Foods. Silence. Miguel finally asked. Can we survive? I don't know. Jacob leaned back in his chair. What do we need to do? That question changed everything. Not, should I start looking elsewhere? Not, am I getting laid off? Just. What do we do? For the first time since the divorce. I realized I wasn't carrying the company alone anymore. We spent the next 8 hours in the conference room. Whiteboards covered in ideas. New pricing. New industries. New features. By midnight we had a plan. It wasn't perfect. But it was enough. 2 weeks later we attended an industrial technology expo. The booth cost nearly every dollar we had left. We couldn't afford the fancy displays. Or the giant LED screens. Our backdrop was printed at a local copy shop. The neighboring booth belonged to a multinational corporation. Their display probably cost more than my car. Miguel looked around. We're going to get crushed. I shrugged. Maybe. Then the expo opened. For the first 2 hours. Almost nobody stopped. People walked past. Smiled politely. Collected free pens. Moved on. Around lunchtime an older man wandered over. He looked at our demonstration without saying anything. Finally he asked. Does it actually predict bearing failure? Usually 6 to 8 weeks before traditional monitoring. He folded his arms. Prove it. I spent the next 40 minutes explaining the system. He asked difficult questions. The kind only someone with decades of experience would know. When I finished, he handed me a business card. I manage operations for Falcon Aerospace Components. I looked at the card. Then back at him. I've heard of you. I hope so. He smiled. We've got 14 plants. My heart skipped. Our predictive maintenance system is awful. He pointed at the screen. If this does half of what you claim. He slid the card toward me. Call me Monday. He walked away. Miguel stared after him. Was that? Yeah. The Falcon Aerospace? Yeah. Neither of us spoke for almost a minute. Finally Jacob whispered, "Don't screw this up." 3 months later. Falcon signed. It wasn't just one factory. It was 3. Then 5. Then all 14. Other manufacturers noticed. If Falcon trusted Sentinel, maybe they should too. Within a year we hired 12 more employees. Then 20. Then 30. We moved out of our tiny office into an old warehouse we'd renovated ourselves. I still assembled half the desks. Because I genuinely enjoyed building things. People assumed success changed me. It didn't. Success simply gave me a larger workshop. The first thing I bought wasn't a sports car. It was my parents' mortgage. I walked into their house carrying a folder. My father looked confused. "What's this?" "Open it." He adjusted his glasses. "Read the first page." Then looked at me. "No. It's done. Ethan. You spent 28 years paying for this place. I know. It's yours now." My mother started crying before he did. Dad didn't say much. He just hugged me. The kind of hug fathers don't give very often. Sentinel kept growing. Awards followed. Industry magazines. Podcasts. Conferences. I hated public speaking. Still do. During one interview a reporter asked, "What motivated you to keep going when the company struggled?" I smiled politely. I didn't know how to quit. People laughed. But it was true. Quitting had never felt easier than continuing. I just happened to continue anyway. About 2 years after the divorce, I ran into Lauren's younger brother, Ben. Completely by accident. At a grocery store. He looked uncomfortable. "I wasn't sure you'd want to see me." "Why wouldn't I?" He shrugged. "Family. You didn't do anything." We talked for almost 20 minutes. Mostly about his new job. Eventually he sighed. "I guess you've heard." "Heard what?" His eyebrows lifted. "You really don't know." "I don't know anything." He hesitated. "Daniel. What about him?" He got investigated. Apparently Daniel had been hiding enormous financial problems. Risky property investments. Personal debt. Questionable expense reports. He hadn't broken the law. At least not enough to be charged. But he quietly resigned. The luxury condo? Gone. The expensive cars? Sold. According to Ben, he and Lauren had broken up months earlier. What happened? Ben laughed without humor. "The same thing that happened to you." I looked at him. "He cheated." "Of course he did." Ben shook his head. My sister was devastated. I didn't know what to say. He looked almost guilty. "I know she hurt you." "I know. But..." He looked down at the shopping cart. "I've never seen her like this." I nodded slowly. "I hope she's okay." He looked surprised. "You mean that?" "I don't hate her." That wasn't entirely true. I didn't hate her anymore. There's a difference. Hatred requires energy. Time had taken most of mine away. That night I thought about Lauren for the first time in months. Not with anger. Not with satisfaction. Just sadness. She'd traded certainty for excitement. Then excitement for disappointment. Life had already delivered consequences I never could have imagined. I didn't need revenge anymore. Reality had handled that better than I ever would have. Another year passed. Sentinel crossed 100 employees. We acquired a smaller analytics company. Then another. For the first time in my life, people introduced me as the CEO. The title still felt strange. Inside, I was still the engineer who got excited about fixing broken machines. One Tuesday morning my COO, Melissa, knocked on my office door. "We're ready." "For what?" "The acquisition." "Right." 3 months earlier we'd finalized a deal to purchase an engineering consultancy that had fallen into financial trouble. Good employees. Bad management. We planned to keep almost everyone. Orientation day had finally arrived. Melissa handed me a folder. "I'll let HR handle introductions." She smiled. "But they really want you to welcome everyone." "I hate speeches." "I know. You enjoy making me do them." A little. Around 10 o'clock. Nearly 40 new employees gathered in our training room. Some looked excited. Others looked terrified. I remembered exactly how that felt. Melissa introduced me. I walked onto the small stage. "Good morning, everyone." A few polite smiles. "I know today is probably stressful. So I'll keep this short. We didn't buy your company because we wanted contracts. We bought it because we wanted people." Several shoulders visibly relaxed. "If you're here, it's because we believe you have something valuable to contribute. And I hope 5 years from now, you'll wonder why you were ever worried." A few people laughed. As I continued speaking, someone near the back dropped a folder. Papers scattered across the floor. Several people bent down to help. I looked toward the noise. Then everything stopped. Lauren. She was kneeling, gathering resumes and onboarding documents. She looked up. Our eyes met. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. She stared at me. Completely frozen. I realized something almost immediately. She hadn't known. The acquisition had been announced under Sentinel's corporate name. The consulting firm had never met the ownership team until today. She had accepted the transfer without realizing exactly where she was going. For a brief second, neither of us moved. The entire room suddenly felt silent. Then I did the only thing that made sense. I smiled politely. Exactly the way I'd smile at any new employee. "Welcome to Sentinel." And continued my presentation as though nothing had happened. When the orientation session ended, everyone gathered their welcome packets and followed HR toward the training rooms. Everyone except Lauren. She stayed in her chair, staring at the floor. I pretended not to notice. Melissa stepped beside me. "You know her?" I looked down at the attendance sheet. "I do." She waited. I didn't elaborate. After a moment she nodded. "I'll handle the rest." "I know you will." By lunchtime, the news had quietly spread among the executive team. Not because I told anyone. Because Melissa eventually pulled my attorney into a meeting regarding employment disclosures. He already knew my history. So did HR. Within an hour, the handful of people who absolutely needed to know, knew. No one else did. That was exactly how I wanted it. Around 3 that afternoon, Melissa knocked on my office door. "Lauren asked if she could speak with you." I kept reading the report in front of me. "About work?" "I don't think so." "Then the answer is no." Melissa hesitated. She seemed. "I know." Another pause. "I'll let her know." As she turned to leave, I stopped her. "One thing." "Yeah?" "If she has questions about her role, she asks her manager. If she has questions about payroll, HR. If she has questions about me, there aren't any." Melissa smiled faintly. I figured. The next few weeks were uneventful. Intentionally. Lauren worked in the operations department on the 3rd floor. My office was on the 6th. There was almost no reason we'd cross paths. And when we did, we behaved like co-workers. Nothing more. She'd quietly say, "Morning." I'd nod. "Morning." Then we'd continue walking. At first, I could feel people watching. Not because they knew our history. Because humans instinctively notice awkwardness. Eventually even that disappeared. Work has a funny way of making personal drama seem much smaller. Deadlines don't care who broke your heart. About a month later, Melissa stopped by again. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Why didn't you fire her?" I leaned back. "Why would I?" She gave me a look. "You know exactly why." "I do. But if I fired every employee who'd hurt me personally, I'd eventually become someone I wouldn't respect." Melissa nodded slowly. "I guess I expected. Revenge?" She smiled. "A little. I already got it." Her eyebrows rose. "When?" "The day I realized I didn't need any." Sentinel had one tradition I'd started years earlier. Every Friday afternoon, anyone in the company could ask me questions. No filters. No prepared speeches. Sometimes people asked about business. Sometimes about engineering. Sometimes completely random things. One Friday, someone asked, "What's the biggest mistake you've ever made?" The room laughed. I laughed too. There are a lot of candidates. But probably believing that working harder automatically fixes personal relationships. The room became quiet. I thought if I built a successful company, everything else would eventually fall into place. It doesn't work like that. You have to build your relationships with the same attention you build everything else. I noticed Lauren sitting near the back. She never looked up. A few days later, I found an envelope on my desk. No name. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Ethan. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and after everything I did, I understand why. Seeing you again has forced me to confront parts of myself I'd spent years trying to ignore. I used to tell myself that our marriage failed because we wanted different things. That's only half true. The other half is that I stopped believing in you before you'd given me a reason to stop. I confused patience with failure. I confused quiet confidence with lack of ambition. And by the time I realized the difference, I'd already destroyed the one person who had never stopped believing in me. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. I only wanted you to know that I finally understand what I threw away. Lauren. I folded the letter. Placed it back inside the envelope. Locked it in my desk drawer. Not because I wanted to keep it forever. Because I didn't know what else to do with it. About 2 months later, our annual company charity gala arrived. Every year we auctioned off items to raise money for technical scholarships. Employees could bring guests. The atmosphere was relaxed. Music. Dinner. Terrible dancing. Exactly how I liked corporate events. I was talking to one of our interns when someone quietly approached. Do you have 5 minutes? Lauren. I looked toward Melissa. She noticed immediately. Gave me a tiny nod that somehow meant, it's your decision. I looked back at Lauren. 5. We stepped outside onto the hotel's terrace. For a while neither of us spoke. Finally she broke the silence. You look happy. I am. I'm glad. I believed she meant it. That surprised me. She took a slow breath. I've replayed everything in my head 1,000 times. I imagine you have. I used to think success meant never struggling. She laughed softly. That's a ridiculous definition. I leaned against the railing. What changed? Life. There wasn't much else to say. She looked out across the city lights. You know what hurts the most? I didn't answer. I spent years telling myself I left because you weren't ambitious enough. She looked at me. The truth? You were the most ambitious person I'd ever met. I just couldn't recognize ambition when it wasn't loud. That sentence stayed with me. Because it was probably the most honest thing she'd ever said. She smiled sadly. I don't expect another chance. I know. I don't even expect forgiveness. I know. I just. Her voice cracked. I wanted to apologize without asking for anything in return. I nodded. Thank you. She wiped away a tear. Can I ask you one question? Sure. If Daniel had never existed, do you think we'd still be together? I thought about it carefully. Long enough that she probably believed I wasn't going to answer. Finally I said. No. She looked surprised. Really? Because Daniel wasn't the reason our marriage ended. He was the consequence. She frowned slightly. You'd already stopped respecting me. You stopped believing my future had value. If it hadn't been Daniel, it would have eventually been someone else. She closed her eyes. I know. There was no anger in her voice anymore. Just acceptance. Winter arrived. Business continued growing. Lauren quietly became one of the better project coordinators in operations. Her manager spoke highly of her. She worked hard. Never asked for special treatment. Never tried speaking to me again outside of normal workplace conversations. For nearly 8 months. That was enough. Then one Monday morning, Melissa walked into my office carrying a resignation letter. Guess who's leaving? I looked at the signature. Lauren. Another offer? Melissa nodded. Smaller nonprofit. Less money. I smiled slightly. Sounds like her priorities changed. I thought the same thing. On Lauren's final afternoon, I happened to be walking through the lobby as she carried a small box toward the exit. Desk plant. Coffee mug. Picture frame. The universal signs of moving on. She saw me. Stopped. I guess this is goodbye. I guess it is. She smiled. A few years ago, I thought success meant finding someone wealthy. I waited. Now I think success is finding someone who believes in you before anyone else does. I couldn't help smiling. I hope you find that. She laughed quietly. I had it once. There wasn't bitterness in the sentence. Just honesty. She extended her hand. For a moment I considered it. Then I shook it. No dramatic music. No tears. Just two people acknowledging that their story had ended a long time ago. She picked up the box. Walked toward the doors. Halfway outside, she turned back. You know. What? I used to think you were always one promotion behind everyone else. I smiled. And now? She looked around the building. The employees talking together. The receptionists laughing. The maintenance worker waving at me by first name. The interns joking with executives over coffee. She looked back at me. I finally realized. You were never chasing a promotion. You were building a life. Then she walked away. I never saw her again. People expect some grand ending after a story like this. That she begged me to come back. She didn't. That I rejected her dramatically. I didn't. That I somehow enjoyed watching her regret everything. I didn't. Life isn't nearly as theatrical as people hope. The real revenge wasn't becoming wealthier than the man she left me for. It wasn't owning the company where she eventually worked. It wasn't watching her realize she had misjudged me. The real revenge happened much earlier. The day I stopped measuring my worth through someone else's opinion. Everything after that was just life. 2 years later, I married again. Her name is Sophie. We met because she corrected a mistake during one of my conference presentations. Apparently I'd mislabeled a graph. She waited until everyone else left before telling me. I figured embarrassing you in front of 300 engineers wasn't the best way to introduce myself. I laughed. So this was your backup plan? It worked. It did. She didn't meet the struggling version of me. But she spent months listening to stories about him. She loved those stories the most. One rainy Saturday, while cleaning the garage, she found the original notebook I'd used when Sentinel was nothing more than a sketch. The pages were filled with terrible drawings. Broken business models. Random equations. Coffee stains. Near the back was a sentence I'd written years before. One day someone will believe in this as much as I do. She held up the notebook. You were right. I smiled. Not exactly. No. I kept waiting for someone to believe in the company. I closed the notebook. What I really needed was to believe that I was worth building a future with, even if someone else couldn't see it yet. She reached for my hand. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, our 2-year-old daughter was trying very hard to teach the dog how to wear one of my old baseball caps. The dog was losing that battle. Spectacularly. Sophie laughed. You should probably rescue him. I probably should. As I walked toward the living room, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. For a second, I thought about the man sitting alone in his driveway years earlier, convinced his life had ended. If I could have spoken to him, I wouldn't have told him about the company. Or the awards. Or the money. I would have told him something much simpler. One person's inability to see your future doesn't mean you don't have one. And sometimes the greatest thing you'll ever build isn't the business you dreamed about. It's the life you almost gave up on.